So ZonePlus is a really nice module for creating dynamic zones and determining players and parts that are within them. And to get the module, you have to go to this developer forum post that I will leave in the description, and you have to scroll down to the Creator Hub Marketplace right here. Then after you press on it, it's going to redirect you right here into the ZonePlus by Nanoblocks. So make sure you're getting the right one. Then you should press on this button right here, but I already have the item. If you don't own it, it should say get model or something else. But now that we are in Studio, we need to insert it. I already have it in my inventory right here, and it should just go into the replicated storage. And that's everything for setting it up, and now we need to actually just use it. So let's just make a part that will be our zone, and I will just make it a green neon. So this is going to be the zone, and now let's get to the scripting. Also make sure it doesn't have any collision. And now how to make a zone. So let's start off by adding a script inside of the server script service. I will be moving it to the side right here, and let's make references to the zone. So this is how you get the module, and now let's make the zone variable. I will name this one my zone, which is equal to zonemod.new. And in this new constructor for the zone, if I go into the script and look for zone.new, it expects a container. And this container is either a model, a folder, base part, or a table. And now I need a reference to the zone part, and I will also rename this one to zone part. So to just create the zone, we need to give it the container, which is the base part. And I'm going to print it out right here and just run the game. And here you can see that it created the zone right here in the output. And this is a class object, so it's going to have all of these properties, events, and whatnot. Same with all of its other information like the volume, zone ID, or even zone parts. But it basically just created our zone. It's going to do the same if the zone is going to be a group. I will rename this one to container. Maybe I shouldn't do that in the runtime, but anyways, right now it should also create a zone based on a group. And the zone is also right here. And the thing with it being a group or a folder, if I let's say make another part, and this one I'm going to make overlapping, like so, this will count as only one zone. And I will show it more whenever I'm talking about the methods, like getting the player in the zone or whatnot. But basically this is going to be a one zone object. If I run it and go to the zone parts, it has both of these parts that are stored in the workspace. Even if it's something like a folder instead. It still created the zone, same with the zone parts. So right now let's talk about the different methods and events, and I'm not going to go through all of them because there is, as you can see, quite a few, but I will basically just overview the most important ones like the player entered, get players, and that stuff. So let's just do that now. So right now I can just do my zone that player entered, connect, and then a function, and this player entered event, the player has to be all lower cases and the entered has to have a capital E. Don't do anything like player entered because something like this is more sensible, but it's not going to work. It's going to throw an error. So make sure that player is in lowercase. And then we just get the player that entered. So I can just print out player.name and then enter the zone. So instead of running it right now, I'm going to do a playtest. And here is my character, and I'm going to go into the zone right now. And then you can see that it said is Paul enter the zone. And if I move to this zone right here, it's not going to give this message again because I didn't leave it, although I am moving to a different part. This is what I said about this counting as one zone object. But if I leave the boundary, let's say right here, and then re-enter, it says that I entered the zone again. And a really neat thing about the zones, where I said at the beginning that they are dynamic, I need to go to the server view now, and let's say I wanted to move this zone somewhere else, let's say right here, and then just went back to the client. Its position in the world got updated, but it's still the same zone, so even if I enter it right now, it's going to say that Paul entered the zone. You can see the number changing because this is just spamming the same message over and over again. So you are able to have a zone which is, like I said, dynamic, and this zone could be moving even like somewhere around the map. And it also would be possible to make hitboxes with zones, but there might be better alternatives. But let's continue. So you have the player entered event, and there is also the player left. Or rather player exited. And right now if I leave this zone, it's going to say that I left the zone. So I'm going to go in, it said that I entered it, and now I'm going to leave. And now it says that I exited the zone. And right now let's use one of the methods, which is the getRandomPoint method, and let's use it for making a part that is going to appear in a random position inside of the zone. And this method returns a random vector and then an array. And this array is an array of zones that the point is in. So if this randomly selected point was, let's say, only inside of the zone, this part would be in the array. But if the part was only inside of the zone, this part would be in the array instead. And if it was in between at the intersection right here, both of these parts would be in the array. But anyways, so now we need to do is equal to my zone followed by the getRandomPoint method. And let's create the instance and place it at the random vector. So we create the part at the random vector of the zone, and now let's just run the code. And you can see that it created a random part right here. And now let's say I wanted to do that maybe 5 times instead. So I will use a for loop for I equals 0 to 5 and then the incrementation, which is 1, do. And just repeat that 5 times. And it created 5 random parts at random positions that are inside of the zone. And even if the zone was moving, it would be constantly getting updated. So let's say I just wanted to do that 99 times. And just add a task weight 1 at the beginning. And run the script. And even if I try to, let's say, move this part around, it's going to create random parts even if the zone right here was moved. Same if I move this one out there. And there is also an option for you, let's just put this code inside of like a task spawn. There is also an option for you to, let's say, get the players that are inside of the zone, and you do that with the getPlayers method. Then I can print out the players in zone after, let's say, like 6 seconds. So if I do a playtest and move inside of the zone, it said that I entered the zone and then it returned an array of all the players that are currently inside of the zone, which is me right here. So you can see how this is a very neat and powerful module, and I've personally used it for a really long time and it's been quite a savior with this. And like I said, there is a lot of different methods, for example like find point, which tells you if the selected point is inside of the zone. Same with find player, if the player is inside of the zone. There is also the destroy, which I didn't show. You can even track different stuff like items, if let's say there was an NPC, and you would want to track it if it was inside of the zone. And there is also different events like local player entered, because you can also use this zone locally. Then even part entered, part exited, and different properties that you can customize. But let's get back here really quickly. So if you wanted to destroy this zone, you could just do my zone and destroy. And after destroying the zone, it's not going to register the player entered or player exited events anymore. But it's still creating the parts just because this thread has the zone variable still. So you need to change the myZone variable to nil. And right now it's going to give an error. So that's how you completely remove a zone. And let's also make a starter character script, which is basically just going to do the same thing, except we need to use wait for child in here instead. And instead of player entered, we need to do local player entered. And this time the player isn't going to be lowercase, this time the P has to be capital, but I'm going to run it from this script right now, and I can close the server script. So right now the local script is going to say that I entered the zone, and let's just ignore this error. But anyway, if I enter it, it says that isPol entered the zone and it was sent from the client. In some cases it's very good to use that because not everything you want to do with these zones is going to be server based. Let's say you had a shop somewhere and it would have this like green circle zone that you would need to enter in for the shop GUI to pop up. And for that case you don't need the client server communication except if you want to load the shop items to the player first. And there is also the ZonePlus Playground that you can even download and you could even check it for yourself, but you basically have different stuff that is worth checking out. So you have all of these random points, and there is something that I didn't show is that the zone also works with custom shapes like this. Then you have a damaging zone and different ambience. This is something that you won't really need with the volumetric audio that I've shown, but it's still really neat. And you also have doors that move and open whenever you enter the zone. And like I said, this is something that doesn't require you to have communication with the server, so for something like this you would use the zone inside of a local script instead. But there will be a link to this place in the description. That is basically going to be everything for today, so if you found this tutorial informative, then please leave a like, and also subscribe to the channel. But yeah, I hope you guys had a nice day, and see ya!